Trump campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. But first, my opening statement. FBI Director Jim Comey's announcement yesterday that he would again look into Hillary Clinton's emails after he announced on July 5th the conclusion of that very investigation, saying no reasonable prosecutor would indict 11 days before one of the most hotly contested presidential elections of our time both disgraces and politicizes the FBI and is symptomatic of all that is wrong in Washington. Now, you know I support Donald Trump and I want him to win. But whether it's Hillary Clinton or anyone else, Comey's actions violate not only long-standing Justice Department policy, the directive of the person that he works under, the Attorney General, but even more important, the most fundamental rules of fairness and impartiality. 10 years ago, when I was the Republican conservative candidate for New York Attorney General, in the home stretch of a statewide campaign, the Justice Department and the FBI violated their own policy against making public statements that would affect an election and announced to the press that they were opening an investigation of me. It was mean-spirited, and of course, nothing came of it, except the adverse publicity cost me at the polls. What was done to me in 2006 was wrong, and what happened to Hillary Clinton yesterday was equally wrong. The Justice Department and the FBI's policy to not comment publicly about politically sensitive investigations within 60 days of an election exists for a very important reason. Announcements so close to elections have an impact. Now, this nation has already gone through an exhausting and traumatic campaign season. The FBI director should not now be front and center. One of the most revered agencies in our nation's history, now seen as putting its finger on the scales of justice, should not now be front and center. So why did he do it? Some say Comey didn't have a choice because he said to Congress that the investigation was over. Wrong. I read that testimony. Others suggest a mutiny at the FBI was underway because the investigation was never real. Maybe he feared local police involvement, the New York City Police Department, in the pedophile investigation on the Uber Abbott and Anthony Weiner computer might have leaked that the first investigation simply was not thoroughly investigated. Maybe he felt guilty, needing a second bite at the apple. And 11 days before an election? How is it that he sends a letter to Congress? He could simply have gotten a ranking member of the committee and that member's deputy and told him and then said, if this gets out, I'll know that you did it. But it doesn't matter now. Had Comey done his job in the first place, had he done a real investigation, had he issued one subpoena, sought one search warrant, had a grand jury been impaneled, had he and the DOJ not granted immunity to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Uma and everybody else who walked through his office, had they not destroyed the laptops of those without clearance to handle our nation's top secrets, we wouldn't be in this mess. Now, Hillary Clinton should have been indicted a long time ago. She and Bill's scandals have done nothing but soil this great nation's image. It's long past time for both of them to start paying for their wrongdoings. And on tonight's show, we're going to talk about how the Clintons have again brought us to the precipice of a constitutional crisis, the reality of a presidential candidate under investigation by the FBI, and what happens if she is elected and then indicted. Who can pardon her? Can she pardon herself? And if not pardons, can she be impeached for a crime committed before she was in office? Thanks to the Clintons, here we go again. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter. Hashtag Judge Jeanine. And joining me now, Donald Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening.
Hi, you're on fire tonight.
Well, you know, this is hogwash. This is not the way it's supposed to be done. And as far as I'm concerned, there are rules. We are a nation of rules. And that's what Donald Trump is all about, a nation of rules.
Yes.
And you don't dance like this. It's not right. But what do you think of what happened?
Well, it sounds like you're upset with Jim Comey for the way he handled the investigation in the first place,
Sure.
which is a point that Donald Trump has been making for many, many months.
Right.
And yesterday, for Comey to come out, I guess he thinks there's something big. He didn't want to go down with the ship, frankly. We do hear all the different rumors, Jeanine, from people being unhappy at the FBI with the conclusion that he ultimately reached, with others saying that he set a very public standard in July, when on July 5th, he could have just said, he could have actually just issued a statement. We never had to see him, but he went out of his way to publicly undercut his own conclusion by saying she was careless and reckless. Then he testified before Congress and undercut his conclusion that much further. We're under oath, a place where many Clinton people will never be. Jim Comey talked about how it's not correct that she had one device, she had 13. They had smashed the devices. She did have national security information being exchanged on this private server. She didn't recognize that C meant confidential when we all know that, let alone, you don't have to be a United States Senator, First Lady, or Secretary of State to know that. We all know that. And so he undercut his own premise in a very public way. But, you know, I think the last part of your statement is the one that Americans go to focus on now before the election, which is, do we really want more of the never-ending Clinton scandalabra? Do we want to take the chance to put somebody in the Oval who then will bring us all through this continuing nightmare? We saw that when Richard Nixon was elected. Then we went through the awful nightmare of Watergate afterward, and you know what happened. But the fact is, the undecided voters right now, they've decided they don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. There's nothing they're going to learn about her positively in the last 10 days that's going to say, you know what, I don't think she lies for a living. I do kind of like her. I do trust her. This doesn't help her among those undecided voters, many of whom are independents. Independents are twice as likely to be undecided as the average voter right now. Right. And they're independent. Why? Independents and moderates are not the same. Independents call themselves independents because they refuse to pledge allegiance to either party. They've declared their independence from both parties. They don't much like Washington. They hate politicians, and they hate exactly what you just described.
But those independents, aren't they already convinced that, look, she was wrong with that email thing, and nothing that Jim Comey did yesterday is going to change their minds?
No, if that were true, then her trustworthy and honesty numbers
wouldn't have gone up.
Wouldn't have gone up.
And they are now
actually,
what?
Oh, they're stratospheric. I mean, in some polls, they're 60, 63, 64%. Her majority of Americans don't like her, they say. They find her to be unlikable. I sympathize. But it's an even higher number among the people who say she's not honest and not trustworthy. That's about 15 points higher than the day she announced. Usually your numbers improve. So Jim Comey deciding, quote, not to prosecute her did not help her. And I would posit to you, everything he said in and around that conclusion, undercutting his own conclusion, also did not help her honesty and trustworthy numbers.
Right. And it was clear when he was under oath in Congress. I mean, he was torn to shreds.
Yes.
I was embarrassed for him as a prosecutor. I was embarrassed for him. But how should Donald Trump handle this?
The way he's handled it yesterday and today. So since this news broke, he's had 6 rallies in 5 or 6 different states. And each time he raises it, he says there's breaking news, or you may have heard they have reopened, or I guess they have a separate investigation. And he mentions Huma, he mentions Anthony Weiner, he mentions how prescient he was, in light of that, I'm going to stop you right there. It's really amazing.
You know what?
This guy's always ahead of the trend. I'm telling you right now.
I want our viewers to know what you and I are both talking about. I'm going to ask for that sound.
But then he moves on. I want to tell you, then he moves on. This is important. He spends a couple of minutes on this, and then he moves on, because our message is still what it's always been. This whole week we've been trending up in the polls.
Okay, we have the sound. Let's listen to it.
Her number one person, Huma Abedin, is married to Anthony Weiner, who's a sleazeball and a pervert. And I'm not saying that. I mean, that's recorded history, right? I don't like Huma going home at night and telling Anthony Weiner all of these secrets, okay?
Talk about pressure.
I remember that day.
How dare she say the guy doesn't have good judgment? Yeah. She's got horrible judgment. She gives her assistant, who, by the way, isn't entitled to have classified information,
right.
All right, who is living with this dirtbag, pervert, pedophile, alleged pedophile, for those of you offended, and he has access to that, and then she says, I have the judgment. Are you kidding?
Well, I remember that day explicitly, and I remember having conversations with other senior staff members and Mr. Trump where he raises this. He's always ahead of the curve.
This is 3 months ago.
He's the guy who put immigration and trade on the map when others wouldn't talk about it. He's the guy, he says things, and then people see they come true. But I wanted to say something. He's not pushing this too far. And the reason is people will make up their own minds. They know who Hillary Clinton is. They see her team on total defense today and yesterday. And what did Clinton and her team do today? They do what they always do. They shot the messenger. They did a hit job from stem to stern on Jim Comey today. It's his fault. And I'll tell you, when it's the FBI, not the RNC, not the Trump campaign doing this, when they don't have the vast right-wing conspiracy or the Republicans to blame, they're completely out of sorts, because now they have to attack someone who's supposed to be independent and nonpartisan as a partisan hack. The other thing I want to say is if you listen to Trump's message, it's very clear. He's still talking about renegotiating bad trade deals, creating 25 million jobs over 10 years. And he's very much on Obamacare. He's quoting the specific premium increases that are going to affect you in your state. These are winning messages. You see the ABC News Washington Post poll?
2 points, 12?
12 minus 12. Now it's 2. I predict it'll continue to trend our way.
Quick question before we go. It is the end of the campaign, 10 days. Do you expect them to dump something big on you?
Oh, sure. They'll
You're
try.
ready. I can see it. You're ready.
They'll try to do that again. Well, we're never surprised, but you're dealing with Donald Trump, and we're accustomed to it. I think what yesterday proved is we're the ones with the thick skin and the broad shoulders. We're very used to having everything dumped on us, and there he is still standing. People have counted this guy out from day one. Don't bet against Donald Trump. He's going to win.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us. We know how busy you are.
Thank you.
And Rudy Giuliani about to join us. But first, let's hear from both candidates on the trail today as the East reacted to news about that investigation.
It is pretty strange. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. In fact, it's not just strange. It's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling. And so we've called on Director Comey to explain everything right away, put it all out on the table.
Hillary has nobody to blame but herself for her mounting legal troubles. Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
Joining me now with reaction, former New York City mayor and former 2008 Republican presidential candidate Rudy Giuliani. Good evening, Rudy Giuliani. To get you here on a Saturday night. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, let's hit it. Surprised?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jim was an assistant U.S. attorney who worked for me for 3 years. I trained him. I've great confidence in him. I think you work with him. You know what a straight arrow is. I was shocked back in July when he
both of us shocked, blown away.
I mean, in fact, I was actually shocked that he laid out almost a prosecutorial memo.
He laid out a prima facie case.
Absolutely. And then he came to the conclusion that he shouldn't come to, the Justice Department should, that she shouldn't be indicted. That's not his job to make that decision. So I was shocked at that.
So he makes this ridiculous decision. But did you hear what I said in the open? No subpoenas, no search warrant, no grand jury impaneled. Immunity.
It does underscore our complaint about his decision originally.
Exactly.
Which is, you didn't do an investigation.
Exactly.
Never presented it to, certainly those facts warrant presenting it to a grand jury, at a minimum.
Yes.
At a minimum.
So why now? What's cooking now?
I don't know. I'm not the fly on the wall. I mean, I'll tell you, it's a very bad strategy that the Clintons are following, which is to challenge him. I mean, I always tell my clients when I'm on the other side, the prosecutor's got all the power. Don't say to him, put out all the evidence.
But here's the thing. Loretta Lynch, you know, that lovely woman who met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac.
I think she took the Fifth Amendment the other day over the ransom.
She took the Fifth Amendment over the $1.7 million ransom deal. Oh, my God, with Iran.
Taking the Fifth Amendment.
I know. Enough with this Attorney General. But anyway, I just wish I had the whole hour to talk to you. So Loretta Lynch says, look, Comey, we don't want you to go out there and reopen the case, or at least announce that you're reopening it, because we're within this much time.
I thought Loretta Lynch was recused from this case.
Yeah, you and I both, yeah, clearly. But
by meeting with Bill Clinton in what know had to have been, I mean, I know what happened and you know what happened. They met together. Loretta Lynch told, Clinton was probably annoyed, wanted it over with.
Yes.
She said, don't worry, it'll be over with in a week.
Yeah.
In a week, over the weekend, they interview her. 2 days later, the report's written. Yeah. That report had to have been written 2 weeks before.
Not only that, within a week of that, Hillary Clinton comes out and says, if I'm elected, Loretta Lynch will be my attorney general. If this isn't corruption per se, it doesn't exist. But let's talk about the fact that Loretta Lynch supposedly recused herself, obviously never did, but now she's upset with Comey. Clearly, she and Sarah, whatever, Yates, or whatever this other person's name is, Sally Yates. Comey can't get a grand jury without Loretta Lynch, so Comey ain't going anywhere.
Well, this thing will still be open after the election. And I would think, no matter what, a special prosecutor should, look, you want the fair result?
Yes.
A special prosecutor should be appointed. And a special prosecutor, non-Republican, non-Democrat, should redo this whole investigation.
Well, you know Obama's not going to do that, and you know Loretta Lynch isn't going to do that.
Obama should be required to promise that he's not going to pardon any of these Clinton incorporated. I think it's a racketeering enterprise, frankly.
You and I said that 2 years ago. It's an organized criminal enterprise. It's not a 501(c)(3).
This is I mean, I have a whole bunch of statutes they violated.
You and I do.
But this is a racketeering. This fits the RICO statute. Yeah. Clinton Inc. I think it was one of the WikiLeaks that said this is Clinton Inc.
Yes.
All the different parts of it. He gives the speeches. They put the money in the pocket. She does the favors for the governments. It all links up. Why did they destroy 33,000 emails? Because it shows the link.
Yes, it shows. Why did she set up the server in the first place? Because she had something to hide. This is what they do. It's like the mob used to get the phones you could throw out.
Well, yeah, and then they destroy the evidence like the mob.
Of course.
Including banging
with a hammer and bleach pit and all that other lunacy. But most interesting is, do we know if they gave them complete immunity? Like Uma Abedin. Let's talk about Uma and her dirtbag husband.
I haven't seen her name in the immunity list. Now, I don't know. She might have gotten immunity. She might not have gotten immunity.
Cheryl Mills, did she get immunity?
She got partial immunity. I'm not sure I know what that means.
Did you know that Cheryl Mills, who did that charity work for the foundation, where there's the wall between the State Department and the foundation, one of the Korean companies that invested in Haiti gave money to the foundation and gave money to one of Cheryl Mills' companies?
The foundation.
So everybody around them was making their pigs at the trough.
When they say things like, we did good work in these countries, the money in those countries was going to their donors.
So sad.
Like Haiti, for example. Some of the money went to one of Hillary's brothers. I mean, so this isn't like the Red Cross. I mean, it's horrible stuff. You donate to the Clinton Foundation, you get your favors, and then you get your contracts at the other end. You get your money back.
Well, look at this guy, the Nigerian, Shaugari, who gave them $5 million, $10 million to the initiative and to the foundation.
He made a fortune.
Yeah, he made a fortune, and he's got the land deals in Nigeria. Boko Haram, who's supposed to be the arm of, the muscle men in Nigeria, Hillary Clinton doesn't announce them as a terrorist group.
If this was an Italian name, they'd have been prosecuted. Right?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Okay, let me quickly. What is the next step? Do you think Comey says anything in the next 10 days?
I think they're challenging Comey to now explain to us what was so serious about all this.
Do you think he says anything?
I think so.
I think not.
I think he's gonna stick it right in their face. They shouldn't be wishing for this.
Okay.
Comey didn't do this because there's nothing. One thing he is not is unintelligent.
Oh, he is a smart man.
So
that we know.
Whatever caused this is something very serious.
Mayor Giuliani. America's mayor, thanks for being with us. And we're just getting started. CPAC Chairman Max Lapp, Democratic strategist Marianne Marsh are on the panel tonight.